I'm in a contract, do what I always do, which is, every day I come in, work as hard as I can to help the team in whatever way I can. And so that's what I'm going to continue to do.
Talking to reporters yesterday, and when I saw the full transcript of his comments, look, I'm feeling even more strongly a trade isn't going to happen. He's got no reason to go along with it. His attitude is very simple. Keep me or fire me. And it's funny, when I tweeted that yesterday after posting the story, a lot of the, experts out there said, well, of course, what are the other options? Well, there are other options. It can be a mutual parting. It can be arm in arm. After 24 years together, we are going to bid farewell. We're going to hug each other and everyone's happy and everything's positive. We're just going in our separate. No, it's going to be, I'm here at my desk. You've got to send security in. I don't mean it that literally. You've got to eject me from my office or you keep me. Those are your choices. It's not up to me. It's up to you. I got a contract. I got a job. I'm not leaving until you tell me to. And when you do, I got a buyout of about whatever, $25 million, $30 million, whatever it is he owes him for this year. He's got that buyout. He's not going to make it easy for Robert Kraft. That to me is the big takeaway. Whatever happens next, Bill Belichick has not and will not do anything to make it any easier for Robert Kraft. If you're going to fire me, you better fire me. I'm not going to agree to anything else. Otherwise, you know where to find me. I'll be getting ready for next season.
Yeah, I had two takeaways from that press conference, Mike. The first was, I'm under contract. So he made that clear. Pay me and move on from me, or I'm here next year and you're paying me my 25 or 30 million or whatever it is next season. The other thing I had a takeaway on that, Mike, was he talked about he'd be willing to let someone else handle personnel decisions. That, to me, he wasn't talking to Robert Kraft. I think he was talking to other teams saying, hey, I'm willing. If you already have a GM in place, I'm willing to come in and work with that GM, more than willing to do it. I think that was a message to other teams. I don't think that was a message to Robert Kraft because I don't think he's back with the Patriots. But I too do think that was a clear message to other teams that he'd be willing to work with a GM and not have personnel control if that's what it takes to win somewhere else.
That's a great point. And I hadn't thought of it that way. I've been so focused on the end game in New England. I hadn't thought about how he lays the foundation for the next step. But we've talked about what guardrails do you have to put on Bill Belichick. That's a great point. He's letting everyone else know, you know what? I will work with somebody else if that's what it takes to go to where he wants to go, especially if the people he's working with have the last name of Jones, willing to work with them in order to get what it is that they've been trying to get since 1995. I also think at some level, this kind of raises the stakes for Robert Kraft, too. Don't just assume I won't cooperate. Don't assume I won't give. Yeah. Don't assume I'm not flexible. Don't assume I can't change. I believe that, based on 24 years of working with Bill Belichick, Robert Kraft's attitude would be along the lines of, it's too late to try to get him to change. It's too late to try to get him to accept the GM. It's too late to try to get him to do all the things we've been subtly and quietly trying to get him to do all these years that he doesn't do. I mean, the reality is he's a hell of a coach. He's a great coach. He's one of the great coaches of all time. It's the other aspects of the job that I don't want to say they've passed him by because that sounds ageist, but the game has evolved. The game has changed. The game has modernized. Has he changed with it as it relates to everything but game planning, X's and O's? What do we do with the players we have? Has he done enough to get the best possible players? Makes it a lot easier to game plan and draw up X's and O's when you don't have one arm tied behind your back because you have modernized your effort to acquire talent and you have enough of a staff. You trust enough people. You're taking full advantage of the money ownership's willing to spend. I just think that it's too late for him to make that pivot. And if he's going to make that pivot, he might as well just make that pivot with a new team.
Yeah, and Mike, I want to give Robert Kraft really a lot of credit here because earlier we talked about Jim Harbaugh, and I mentioned he wears out his welcome wherever he goes, and you talked about the 49ers not making it work after really 3 years. He stayed there another year, additional year after that when they went 8-8. But the 49ers didn't make that work, and they didn't win a championship or championships that they could have won if they had kept Jim Harbaugh. Robert Kraft, I know, had many run-ins with Bill Belichick. I know that he found Bill Belichick very difficult to work with. And he was, and he is, and he's going to be that for the next team. But Robert Kraft and the Patriots organization made that work. Why? Because they knew they were going to win championships with Bill Belichick. He was the best possible coach they could have, and they made that work, and they made it work for a really long time. And now, after a few years of losing without Tom Brady and 4-13, the worst record of Bill Belichick's career, that's when you wear out your welcome. That's how it's done, though. You win all those championships, you get what you can out of the relationship, and then you decide, okay, I've had enough. We've won our championships. Let me move on and try to find a different head coach. And I think that's where they are in their relationship, Mike. But kudos to Robert Kraft and that organization.
I got an email from someone I've known for years connected to the NFL on the 4th of July, throwing out the idea of Mike Vrabel being the next coach of the New England Patriots. And I've tucked that away. I've mentioned it before. I've written it at PFT. It would have to be a trade unless the Titans just fire him. And at this point, why would you? Let it play out, see what happens. Now, it slows down your own search for a coach. That's the problem. But if you have a guy you want to keep and you know he wants to go somewhere else and somewhere else wants him, why wouldn't you try to play it out and get something, especially when you consider that once upon a time, the Buccaneers gave up 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, and $8 million in cash to get John Gruden from the Raiders when he was entering the final year of his contract. But there is a weird vibe here. Vrabel has said he wants to stay. What else is he going to say? Behind the scenes, that's what matters. He's been upset from time to time. Now, he seemed to win the power struggle with John Robinson, but then they hired Rand Carthon to be the GM, and was that a guy that Mike Vrabel handpicked? No, they didn't particularly know each other. So there was a vibe that they were sellers at the trade deadline. I had heard he was not happy about that at all. And it may just be a tractor beam pulling him to New England. They put him in the Hall of Fame this year, the team Hall of Fame. Is that a coincidence? Yeah. I don't know. And we've heard all along Gerard Mayo is going to be the next coach of the Patriots after Bill Belichick. Well, I think that presumes a graceful retirement, not a firing. When there's a firing and you're close to the guy who got fired, I don't know that you're the right guy to be sold to the fan base as the next head coach. It's much different if Bill Belichick does indeed coach until he decides he's done, walks off into the sunset, here's Gerard Mayo. Much different vibe if he's fired. And I just think it's, even though Vrabel has never coached with the Patriots, I think that is one to keep an eye on. There's enough smoke there for us to be watching it now, unless and until Vrabel has his end-of-season press conference and says, I'm coming back, until Amy Adams-Strunk sits there and says he's coming back. And even then, who knows? Maybe it's just part of the dance they're going to play to try to get the most they can out of the Patriots. But I think there is reason, and it goes back to the idea that was planted into my brain July 4, first thing in the morning. There's the email. And I won't forget that. It makes sense, and we continue to watch it, and I think it's smart to keep an eye on the possibility of Mike Vrabel going to the Patriots.
And I think if Mike Vrabel was coming back to the Titans, he would have had his press conference yesterday. He would have talked to the players in a team meeting, which they didn't have. Will Levis told the media that he went and asked Vrabel himself, I've heard the rumblings. Are you coming back? And Mike Vrabel says, I'll let you know when I know. So he obviously doesn't know whether he's going to be back with the team. So it makes perfect sense for him to end up in New England. When you fire a coach, trade a coach, move on from a coach, Mike, you better make sure the next coach is better. I'm not sure the Titans can find a better coach than Mike Vrabel. I just think he, despite what's happened the last 2 years, when they haven't really had a quarterback, I think he's one of the best head coaches in the NFL. He gets the most out of his talent, and those players play hard for him. Even when they were out of it this year, you look what they did at the end of the season, beating the Dolphins, Week 18, beating the Jaguars. They played a big, big part in how the playoffs played out. They played a big part in Houston winning the division. They played a big part in Miami not winning the division. teams that don't like their head coaches would not have been playing that hard late in the season, Mike. Big mistake. I'll say it right now. Huge mistake by the Titans if they move on from Mike Vrabel.
Vrabel and Jim Harbaugh have some similarities. Great coaches, and they're not going to, like, Harbaugh conducts himself differently. Vrabel will be much more cutting. I mean, he'll tell you, man, that is just stupid. Why did you say that? That is just stupid. That's stupid. Why would you say that? I could see it. I could hear it. It possibly has been said to me by him once or twice. Who knows? Maybe, maybe not. So he would have good cause to do it. But the point is, he could rub some people the wrong way. Well, you find a way to make it work. And here's the thing. If in his heart he wants to go to New England, it's hard to deny him that. If this is, like, how do you truly get the absolute best out of Mike Vrabel if you know he wants to go somewhere else and you kept him from doing it? It's going to be a tough call for the Titans if they do want to keep him. If they do want to keep him, it's going to be tough. And if they're trying to set it up so they get something in return, we'll see if it works out. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.